Yo, welcome back to Herbistry420. I'm your host, 40. Today we're doing Gummies for Dummies Part 4. What? Oils, right? Coconut oil, MCT oil, sesame oil. You could even do olive oil if you want, but it would impart the flavor of olives into your gummy. You probably don't want to use it. So either a neutral oil or most probably coconut oil or MCT oil. I had some infused coconut oil in the fridge. In fact, exactly half of a cup, which is what we're going to use in this video. If you've seen the Cannabutter part 3 of this series, it's the same recipe and really the same steps. You just sub the butter for the oil. The reason I'm doing a separate one for oil is just because of search. The reality is some people would maybe pass over the video because they thought, oh, it says Cannabutter, but I'm doing oil, even though it says oil also. I didn't want to take any chances, baby. Anyways, this is fail-proof, huh? If you follow this recipe exactly, your gummies are going to turn out amazing. Come on over here and let's get started, baby. All right, so we're closer. I've got a double boiler going in here, and you can hear the water probably boiling on the bottom. We've got that going. I want to say that you should have a kitchen scale. I'm going to use some metric numbers, but the reality is a kitchen scale is such a benefit in the kitchen. If you don't have one, I really think you should get one, right? Now I have a couple syringes here later to put the gummies into the molds. That is optional. You could pour, you could use a spoon. The syringes are just easier, right? The first thing that we're going to want to do is bloom our unflavored gelatin. We've got 85 grams or 1 packet of gelatin. Now what brand you use doesn't actually matter. It's use this brand, it's Tutti Frutti flavor. It doesn't matter the brand, huh? But this is 85 grams. We are going to take this. No, we're going to take, I'm sorry, the unflavored gelatin. This is 30 grams of unflavored gelatin. I used Royal. You could use Knox. You could use whatever you want, but this is 30 grams, right? I already pre-measured it. I'm going to go ahead and dump this in this cup right here, right? Put that in the sink, and then I'm going to take half of a cup, right, of a juice. You could use water if you want. The juice just imparts some extra flavoring, and I think that is nice, right? So we're going to bloom it with this juice using half of a cup, and we're using what I had, right? I used the same Jello and the same juice as I did in the last recipe for the butter, just because I had the juice still in the fridge, right? So what I'm gonna do is take 1 small spoon and I'm gonna stir this up and we're gonna let it to bloom, right? So as we're working on everything else, this should bloom for approximately 5 to 10 minutes and that should be fine, right? So set aside, it's here, it's blooming, bada bing, bada boom! So inside of our double boiler, what we're going to do is take half of a cup of oil. This is coconut oil that's infused. You can even see some of the on the bottom, you know, like when maybe there's a little bit of, I don't know, a little bit of the cannabis that stays in there. That could be what it is, right? Anyways, I'm going to dump this in the pot and I'm going to make sure that I get everything out. So I'll use a spoon right here. We don't want to leave anything behind. And again, I'm using half of a cup or 128 grams. If you're measuring, right? So something like that. And of course you should measure. Can you use more than 128 grams? You can. I wouldn't go too much further. Let me say one other additional thing. The reality is that coconut oil, this is not refined, I don't think. So it has quite the coconut flavor. That flavor is coming with the gummies, right? If you used MCT oil, then you could skip that coconut flavor. And yeah, so now that's in here, it's starting to melt. What we want to do is take some lecithin. We're going to take 2 teaspoons of lecithin, right? All right, now that we've added the 2 teaspoons of lecithin, we are going to take a whisk and start getting this all incorporated and mixed up, right? Now, could you use granules or powdered lecithin? You can, but you should bloom it the same way that we're blooming the unflavored gelatin, right? So as you can see, the coconut oil is almost fully melted and we're just going to keep stirring that up, right? Now once it's fully melted, the next step is to add our juice, right? It's funny, huh? The stove brings the heat, the light brings the heat. It's hot in here and it's not just because I just worked out. All right, so this is looking good. It's now all melted. We're going to take a half of a cup of juice. So remember, that's a total of a full cup of juice, right? We just separated because we're blooming with half. The other half we're going to put in here to help dissolve the flavored gelatin, right? Now, what brand you use doesn't matter. Like I said, Jello, it could be Royal, it could be whatever. It doesn't matter, right? So we're going to take this, we're going to dump it in, and we're going to start stirring, right? And what we want to do right now, let me grab the cell phone. And what we want to do, if you look at here, it's we want it to fully dissolve. So we're just going to keep stirring, letting this puppy dissolve. It's going to take a few minutes, right? So just keep stirring, keep stirring, keep stirring. All right, the next thing that we want to add is our mold inhibitor. We are going to use potassium sorbate. Potassium sorbate can be made in a 3-to-1 ratio. So if you use 30 parts of water to 10, or 3 parts water to 1 part potassium sorbate. So if I use 30 grams of water, use 10 grams of potassium sorbate, you mix it up, it dissolves, and then you're left with this. We only need 1 teaspoon, right? And this will help help prevent the gummies from creating mold, right? Now, besides that, we can take our, we've got some food coloring here and some flavoring. I use passion fruit juice. The ones with the Cannabutter weren't so strong in flavor, so I'm going to use some of this passion fruit flavoring. I'm just going to squirt in there maybe twice. I don't know exactly how much this is. Obviously, it could be trial and error. This is a new flavor of gelatin for me, so I'm not positive. Plus, I don't want these to be yellow. I want them to be green, so I'm going to use some green food coloring, and I'm going to put 2 squirts in there of the green food coloring. So this is the time that you would add your food coloring as well as any flavorings if you want. Now, that's optional. You don't have to do that. We're going to start mixing this puppy up. We're going to see what color green it turns. And we may end up adding more or not. Let me show you with the cell phone. So that's looking good. I mean, it doesn't have to be like, I mean, that's a pretty beautiful green color, I think. So that's good, right? Now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and take our unflavored gelatin that has now bloomed, right? This is now almost like a block in here, right? If you see. So we could break it up a little bit, and then we're going to dump it in here. Let's try to move the whisk a little bit of, that's not proper English, a little bit out of the way, or out of the way. Now when you dump this unflavored gelatin that's bloomed inside of this, it's going to take a little while to become liquid and homogeneous. You can use an immersion blender if you want. Instead, what I'm going to do, which I imagine most people will do, is just stir it for 10 minutes, right? And when I say 10 minutes, I mean 10 minutes. Don't cut corners here. You might look inside and be like, oh, it's liquidy. We're good enough. No, don't. Make sure that you go for at least 10 minutes. So I'm going to set a timer on my phone real quick, open up the clock app. We're going to set it to 10 minutes. We're going to click start. It should give us a warning when it's done. I'm going to show you on the phone real quick what it looks like here. And you can see that we got a ways to go. This is definitely going to take 10 minutes. And when I say stir for 10 minutes, I mean stir for 10 minutes. You don't have to go crazy, right? You just keep stirring, right? And if you take a break for a few seconds, that's fine. Get back at it right away. Really, if you do not stir for 10 minutes, what's going to happen is your gummies are going to separate, and then you're going to have to remelt them down and do this again. So I reiterate, if you ever have problems with your gummies separating, it's probably because you didn't mix enough. But then, hey, you could just go ahead and remelt them, and after you remelt them, you could stir them up some more and make sure that everything is homogeneous, and then you shouldn't have the separation issue, right? So I'm going to stop talking. We'll be back in 10 minutes when this is done being incorporated. All right, there goes the alarm. So I did stop to grab the mold, so we'll stir for a little bit longer. Oh, it's so hot in here. All right. So my fridge is packed, so we're not going to have them set in the fridge. If you want them to set faster, you'd want to have them sit in the fridge and probably use a cutting board or something to put underneath, because if you try to pick them up when they're full, just like so, you're going to spill all over the place. But if you put a cutting board underneath, you can easily transport in and out of the fridge, no problem. However, we're going to just let them dry out here. And that should take probably at least an hour, maybe more. But yeah, so a little bit longer than the fridge. Fridge is usually around 30 minutes. But we are going to do it out. So let's start doing it. Let's try with the big syringe. It will make things easier. These molds for sure is great. I think even for that it's fine. And these are some skull and crossbones and some pumpkins. I like to switch it up, huh? I don't even know if clearly it doesn't make a difference because these are for me, huh? But But yeah, I like to switch it up. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the cap off. We are going to take a paper towel, and the reason why the paper towel is every time we go ahead and we pick some of this up, now we're going to turn this down quite a bit, the stove, almost to off, right? Like setting of 1 or something like that. And I'm going to see if I can move this. Where could I put this? Maybe right here. Let's see if it stays. There we go. Now, let me show you on the phone real quick. So if there was a film on the top here, we could use a slotted spoon and we could skim it off. There doesn't look to be too much issue or gunk right there. And what that will do is create a film layer on top if there is gunk, right? But if we take, for example, the spoon right here, let me grab the spoon, and we just skim the top like so, you know, there's maybe a little bit, but I think it's okay. I'm going to leave it. I'm not that worried. All right, let's take the syringe here. We're going to fill it up. Now in the beginning, this is going to fill easier. The longer we work with it, the more it's going to dry inside the tube. The reason I'm using the paper towel is so that I don't make a mess moving from the syringe to over here to the molds, right? And something like that is probably good. So I'm going to stop talking. I'll just fill these puppies up, huh? One thing I'll say is you notice how there's a bunch of bubbles right there. Those bubbles will be imperfections in the gummy. If I'm worried about that, what you'd want to do is pop the bubbles before it sets, right? So just something to think about. I told you I'm not so worried because these are for me, but if you're looking for perfection, that's exactly what you'd want to do. All right, to help get the remaining mixture, I'm just going to tilt this on its side so it all collects. And maybe that will be, it's going to be hard to pull the syringe with one hand, but let's see if we can do it. And it's not much in there, but maybe enough to make one more gummy. I don't know how I balance this. See, it would help to have a friend right now. I need a friend. All right. It's hard to pull this with one hand, especially because it's not the first pull of this syringe. There we go. Let's move this over here. Yep, another full gummy. So now to pop these bubbles, I said it didn't matter to me, but we can do it. Just use our syringe just to tap the bubble, they go away, right? Put a little bit more there. All right, let's turn this off. Now, what I'm going to do is I'll be back in an hour or so when these are ready to pop out, and I'll show you what they look like, and we'll try one. All right, so it's been a couple hours. I took them out of the molds, and I actually put them in the fridge for a little bit. They still need to dry, right? 24 hours on a drying rack, minimally, right? It depends on the humidity of your environment. Now, mind you, on this drying rack, there's going to be some lines here. You could make sure that those lines don't show up if you want by constantly moving them, right? In fact, you could turn them over, then turn them back over every so often, and that will make it so the lines don't stick in. If I leave these for 24 hours, the lines may stay on the back, which, whatever, for me, I don't care, right? So let's take one of them and give them a try, right? That's a mouthful, huh? So, same as the Cannabutter ones, in my opinion, I'd much rather do this with tincture or much rather do this with FICO or concentrate because the texture is different. They're very creamy when you make it with coconut oil or with Cannabutter. As far as cannabis taste, there's not really much of a cannabis taste. It's very slight on these. Maybe that's because it's coconut oil, so I'm tasting a little bit of the coconut, the passion fruit flavoring, as well as the juice. And it tastes quite nice. The only thing, I'm not a big fan of the creaminess of it, right? And if I made it with concentrate, it wouldn't be creamy. However, they're super nice, right? You can store them in the fridge or the freezer. What I like to do is put a couple in the fridge. Anything I'll eat within 2 weeks. Anything else I put in the freezer. In fact, it's fine. If you have them in the freezer or in the fridge, because these are coconut oil, right? And coconut oil in the fridge will harden. It will make them very dense. So if I take them out of the fridge, I might leave them to sit. Because right now, if I pick one up, I mean, look at this. It's nice and squishy, right? I'm like, look at this. Anyways, it's nice and squishy. It's great, right? And that's not going to change However, if we put it in the fridge, it's going to become very dense and it won't be smushy. It will be quite hard, right? So if you have it in the fridge or in the freezer, leave it out at room temperature for a little while, and then boom, it will be soft and squishy like it is now. If you don't care how like dense they are or whatever out of the fridge, you can eat like that too, no problem. Because we use potassium sorbate, and you don't have to use potassium sorbate. You could use mold inhibitor, the Loran Ales makes one, you could use lemon juice, but I find potassium sorbate, in my opinion, it works the best, and it's cheap, right? You could buy like a pack of the crystals, that will last you forever, like 250 grams of the crystals will last you forever, unless you're making gummies all day, every day, right? What else? Don't forget to bloom your unflavored gelatin. Make sure you stir for 10 minutes. If you run into any problems and there's no separation on the gummies, right? You may notice, I have my phone right here ready to show you, right? All right, so you may notice, I think maybe the one I actually ate, on the back you see this different coloration right here, right? That's not separation, that's the film. If we had scraped off the film, then it wouldn't be there like that, right? Anyway, it's very little, and in the end, I think it's fine. Plus, when it further dries, it will match the color a little bit more, and I think it's fantastic. Guys, this is a foolproof way to make gummies with coconut oil, MCT oil, or some other type of oil. If you make it with MCT oil, you won't get any of that coconut flavor, so that's great. Also, they won't be as dense when they're in the fridge and so forth. So yeah. Guys, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. You know the deal, baby. Woo! Till next time.